Shalom my dear friends. Since I have an aversion towards BMW and grammar, we are covering BMW today. I respect your opinion, but it doesn't count right now. Since not everyone is able to read and write, today's topic is not about BMWs that suffer from oil leaks, brainless owners and or syphilis. Haters would argue at this point that there won't be any oil in it, but today it's all about what counts, namely the appearance. Anyone who says that's not true should show me a person who just has been dismissed at the first look because of their great character. The BMW 7 Series of the generation E65 in a pre-facelifted version is the vehicle everyone likes to forget about like it's some sort of PTSD. Many people generally don't like the styling of the E65 because its grotesque appearance reminds it too much of themselves, especially if you look like a dude with the nickname Cathouse Carter. In the facelifted model the thing is fine if you like cheap plastic and sometimes questionable electrical systems in the interior. The pre-facelifted, or as petty BMW disciples like to say, pre-LCI, makes the vehicle look as if it stayed awake for a week due to an average LA crack consumption. The so-called Chris Bangle design should set standards, which it has, but only at the automotive design Paralympics. BMW tried to kill the bratwurst-eating Bavarian spirit here and then R. Kelly on it.
Close your eyes, show me your face.
There is no other way to describe it. At the beginning there was a lot of criticism, especially in Germany, because average deadlifts only feel alive when they can obey rules. You can only try something new if the TV says so. But the talk among BMW fanboys is always the same. Only old Beamers are real BMWs. This always shifts by 2 generations. In some video a dude even said that the E65 is still a proper BMW. At least it has something in common with the current 7 Series and Sandra. It is hard to look at. We continue with the BMW 2 Series, and I don't mean the new coupe that has no similarities at all with the Toyota GT86. I mean the 2 Series Active Tourer. That's the answer to the question, how high do you have to be in order to spend at least 35,000 euros for a stroke on 4 wheels. Active in the name suggests that you are actively doing something for your image as the neighbor of the year that nobody can stand. For the basic price you get the whole 3 cylinders, which also represent the upper limit of the brain cells for those who voluntarily paid for them. If someone wants to be a good father figure to their unwanted children because they drive a BMW, this is exactly the right thing to express your love for them. Just think for a second behind the logic of it. Someone earned so much money that they can get any crutch and then consciously decide on a 2 Series Active Tourer, forcing a child to starve for others to be happy and buy a used but still much cooler looking BMW X5 with only a few miles on the clock. That would be real solidarity. Let it see for itself how it survives. I mean, it already has a tax number, you can send it to work. Cobalt does not mine itself. If you have to drive a vehicle for notorious compulsive lovers, then get a mini bang bus like the Vauxhall Crossland, or even worse, a Dacia Jogger Extreme. The next chromosome Beamer also has something to do with getting loved against the will. The BMW iX is an SUV disguised as a socket. BMW says it's the #1 for driver satisfaction. Maybe if you are a masochist. They even welcome you to a new vision of form and function. A serious way of saying that someone was completely on ayahuasca or did too much micro LSD. As we Europussies do, we first judge the appearance. In this case you don't really need to say much because the design speaks its own language that unfortunately no one understands. When you are high your eyes slit so strangely, and that's exactly how the iX looks from the back and the front. They took the slit showing a little too seriously. In your case it's enough if you leave a thumb up for the algorithm, but in BMW's case it's more of an accident. It looks more like the Tesla truck, where they oriented themselves just a tiny bit on the design, which feels like it consists of a display the length of my rectum, some camp chairs and a steering wheel with bad character development. The price for this surprise bag is at least 88,000 US dollars. For this kind of money you can get a BMW M850i with the warranty and the hell of a night with the boys in Pablo Escobar land. In order to distract you from my future we trample on the past, namely the BMW E1. You should leave the mistakes of the past behind you, even if you can no longer have an abortion afterwards. It's the will that counts. This study, presented in 1991, is, oh surprise, an electric vehicle. Maybe you notice something. The logo may say BMW, but the design screams epilepsy. In practice, you should probably be able to travel 160 miles thanks to its weight of 900 kilograms. However, the charm that the vehicle creates is priceless. Just imagine picking up your side chick with it. Why should she still let you dig in? This is exactly what it would look like if eco-friendly people wanted to drive a BMW as well. It's just like with children. Instead of a real car, you give them a toy car so they can shut up. A hybrid and combustion engine variant was also planned. Luckily, things turned out differently because someone pushed themselves even harder and brought out the replacement. The E1 should be based on the at the time current 3 Series model, and what came into series production in 1994? The BMW 3 Series Compact. The 3 Series Compact was already no feast for the eyes, but you could still somehow cope with beer and grain. Nowadays, this vehicle is just HIV in the hands of some charlats from Ohio who work at Walmart and stick a pink bitch sticker on their car's rear window, matching the neon pink steel rims while the rest of the car is stock. But today it's not about short-haired women who look like emos. After the E36 Compact, the world had peace for a year until the second generation came out, the E46 Compact. BMW probably patented the surprise effect back then. If you left out the logos, you might think it was some Asian bank clump. The car was originally made for the kind of people who don't like pizza and are deliberately looking for an ugly companion in their life in order to make themselves look better in comparison. Nowadays, E46 Compacts are characterized by the fact that they are cheap, and the owners come up with the innovative idea of sticking M3 logos all over the body. Due to its grotesque appearance, it was only built for 3 years. Fortunately, it was then discontinued in favor of the BMW 1 Series E87, the lesser evil, where the problem here is usually behind the wheel. The BMW i3 also happens to be an electric car, which is ugly and very cheap, because no normal person wants to buy a used electric car. You might think that BMW would rather scare off customers with electric vehicles instead of winning them over. This also corresponds to the statement from BMW CEO who criticized the early end of combustion engines. The design team for the sockets is probably his supervised group from the dormitory for the blind. The disability on wheels has been causing trouble since 2013, and production was stopped in June 2022. It is very easy to explain why. On the one hand, it is very expensive to produce this vehicle because even carbon fiber was used for less weight, and on the other hand, the hipster look is less appealing for any human being. It's better to have a normal vehicle that doesn't necessarily look like it's different. The unofficial successor is the X1 or iX1, which is exactly the same only as an electric version, only causing less cornea on your eyes. In this case, the Bavarian workmanship will continue to be produced in Leipzig. According to BMW, the i3 has already started to be profitable since 2019, but of course, a company does everything for the love of its customers, not for profit. The BMW iZeta isn't a feast for the eyes either, and no, it's not a new party drug like the Spanish flies that my uncle Hubert always gave me as a little kid. BMW built a so-called scooter vehicle from 1955 to 1962. With its weight of 350 kilograms, it weighed as much as an average sport-denying and fat-dripping fat activist. Of course, you could now argue that times were different back then, but that is still no excuse for this. After 45, BMW was unable to restart production because the vodka vagabonds expropriated the factory in Eisenach, i.e. they stole it. At that time, BMW only offered motorcycles and the Baroque Engel 501, which was a financial flop because it was too expensive for this time. The problem was the poverty of the people and the lack of a driver's license free, which allowed you to drive anything back then in Germany. Long story short, BMW thought that they should do things together with an Italian because that had worked so well a few years earlier. BMW was then officially allowed to steal the Italian design, made it a little less Italian, and installed a motorcycle engine so that people with the driving license 4 could drive this thing. The financial crisis was pushed further back and there was more money for purchasable love and legal age. Everything was different back then, and it won't change until crazy eco-friendly people stick themselves on the streets to legalize it. There's no other way to calm them down. On to the next economic economic miracle. If you're not the type of person who thinks being poor is real, then the new BMW X7 is the next visual crime. The new one looks like a porta potty on cloud 9 that is desperately trying to copy the GLS from Mercedes. Mercedes has one, so we have to bring one too. This is quite legitimate considering that Mercedes copied their concept of the BMW X6 back then. That's also cool if you sell more, which Mercedes even managed to do with the GLE, if I'm not completely obese, which I am. Full-time hobos complain about SUVs because they can't afford them anyway, and in protest the free market responds with higher demand for SUVs. A 6-figure number has been delivered worldwide so far, which can be described as a success. It feels like the X7 is around for a week and there is already a facelifted version of it. The design always reminds me of the miscarried Pontiac Aztek from Breaking Bad. It looks like a plastic surgery car crash, and ask in all seriousness, do I look good? BMW does point out that you should use your turn signals, but where is it then? That was probably the reason why you took the serious measures for the new BMW 7 Series. The grille is even larger than on the bigger X7, which by all fairness only confirms that the BMW board like the meme of the BMW kidney grille from several years ago. Coupled with psychosis after a really great weekend, this 7 Series is the result. At the front it also has something bizarre from the Pontiac Aztek. The BMW kidneys are now radiators and the shape is more like a brick. Things are completely different inside. If they only could have asked the same people who designed the interior to adapt it to the exterior, so people like us who can't afford this thing anyway wouldn't have to make fun of it. BMW obviously wants to ensure that people prefer to be in the vehicle instead of being at home with their family. After all, they always try to find a solution. But the fact is that BMW has specifically oriented itself towards the Asian market with this 7 Series. They probably have less interest in having their balls tied tighter by the European Union. Technologically, you could also go down on your knees with the 7 Series, but today it's all about the looks. Some would probably miss out on the BMW X6, but I am sure that most of them would like to get robbed of their innocence in this car. Me included, of course. Write in the comments which vehicle would cause a tumor in your eyeballs. Like and share the video, otherwise your ovaries will fall out. Bye.